Hi there, and welcome back to Stories of a First Gen Latina. I'm your host, Monica. Thanks for joining me. We are going to talk today about careers and making some leaps and bounds in your careers. We are at the end of the year, and usually, right now we're in October. It's October 26th. I'd love to do like a countdown, usually in December. And I did this last year, actually did some TikTok videos on it, where we had a topic like every day on what to do to further either close out our year, and some of it involved some self-reflection, some of it involved some actions, and some of it involved just planning. I want to start a little bit sooner. We're headed into November 1st soon, next week, after Halloween, my most favorite holiday ever, which, by the way, spoiler alert, I'm going to be doing a video podcast, which is the way I do always, but if you're on Spotify, you might just hear me, where I'm going to be in full costume that day. So it's going to be exciting. I love Halloween. I love dressing up. Anyways, that was a side note. But really what we're talking about is kind of the reflecting piece that the end of the year usually brings for me. I encourage you all to do the same. Usually around the end of the year is when I like to think about my career, where I'm at with my career, kind of reflect on the successes of this year, reflect on the good times that I had this year, some of the downs, which I think are important to reflect upon. And then also reflect on the personal side. How much growth have I done this year? How's the family? How are the kids? How's my relationship and connection with the kids, with my nuclear family, my internal family, with my husband, with my partner, with any friends, and overall my extended family, obviously, right? My sisters, my nieces, my parents, and then beyond that as well, any other family members that I've been connected with. And just overall how I'm feeling, reflecting upon maybe some of those goals that I set early on in the year. A lot of really great reflection. I know that was just a lot right now, but just kind of going through in my brain what I would reflect upon. So starting on that, what weighs heavy on me is my career. So last year I started my business, Mivia. Mivia has been doing so amazing, so great. There's been a lot of shift in what I refer to as like the business strategy has changed a bit, which is great. I'm hearing from my business coach that that's what we see, right, in businesses that are starting, that there's sometimes a shift and change, and that just means you're growing. That means you're growing, you're developing, you're evolving, you're solidifying, or maybe confirming what your business approach is, or was, and where you're at today, and what makes sense. What have you uncovered and learned, and so where you're headed. So business side has been really good. Mivia Stress Relief, which is a branch of Mivia, has been doing phenomenal. We do head spa, Reiki, crystal healing. So that's been really going great. The coaching side has been picking up. And then I've had a more like day job, so to speak, as I get my business called like parallel entrepreneurship or something like that, where you have both, your continued full-time job or even a part-time job where it's salary-based, you're working for an organization, and then you have your business that's moving along. And I did a TikTok some time ago that talked about, have your plan B, your plan C, but you can also have your A and AA, your parallel approach in your side hustle and also your full-time. And so when full-time, if anything happens with that, knock on wood 3 times, and anything happens with that where either you're laid off, there's been a riff of some sort, you have something to back you up that maybe you can begin to deploy out full-time. Maybe that's a good opportunity to do that. Or you just have some revenue and some money that you've been building with that side hustle, which is kind of like the cushion to allow you to figure out what's next in your life. And I feel like that's where I'm sort of at, in that gray area of like, what's next for me? What does this next year hold? And I did a lot of soul searching kind of in the middle of the summer. I've realized that I really want to get into like leading individuals again, like leading, because I closed up a gig this past January where they reorganized, and I thought that was a good time to exit. And I realized that I was burnt out. First of all, I was really burnt out. And second, that I really miss leading individuals, mentoring, coaching folks in what is my bread and butter, my field. My field is in sales and business development and capture and proposal development, mainly proposal development, winning contracts. Really great track record in winning contracts and helping individuals do that, and helping increase tradecraft for professionals, helping them in their career, being their champions and advocates. And I want to continue doing that. I want to do that for organizations. Anywho, so I'm in the deep of this right now. But just taking a step back, I did some reflection as far as like, how did I get to where I'm at today? And what things can I provide back to the Latinas, the Latinos, the allies out in the world, the Latinxes, Hispanics, and our allies out in the world through this podcast, where I can share some of the nuggets of my career trajectory, my successes, a lot of lessons learned, and really like just overall how I got from literally like working full-time while in college, while getting my associates, working full-time at Toyota, and then now, in a position where I've reached for, working for a Fortune 500 company as a director, jumped into being a vice president at a smaller organization, and having like a really great story and reputation and success in what I've done so far. I think what's important to say here is none of it's going to be cookie cutter where you could take like all of these nuggets and feed them into, like, pick out what is best for you, what resonates for you, what speaks to you, what makes sense for you. And I always say go with your gut, because intuition is very, very important. And anytime you're hearing any type of podcast, when you're reading a book, right, and what it is that's growth, development, advice, I always say go with your gut, go with what resonates for you. So starting off, I want to say that one of the main lessons that I've learned, and I did this sort of on accident, but really more so because I don't believe in coincidences. So I don't know if that's right to say as far as it was an accident, but like I went with my gut and in my intuition. I did some self-reflection years ago, and this is the gut and intuitive download that I received. I was in a space where I was surrounded by individuals that were a little plus, a little minus around where I'm at in my education, in my career, and what I define success to be. And I was kind of with those like individuals, but it like frustrated me because I knew I wanted more. And so I surrounded myself with people who were like kind of in my comfort zone. Let's call it our comfort zone of people that are very, very like you, like-minded, but also in like the same career trajectory, same aspirations as you, which at that time wasn't very much. Through that reflection, and I felt like I was very frustrated, like I wanted more. And I also wanted to be proud of myself and what I've accomplished. And that, of course, is the drive of a first gen, right? Wanting to demonstrate also to my parents and almost like giving them back a sense of like accomplishment that they did well by migrating and risking their lives and their career and leaving their family and country behind so that their children have, the ability to have more doors of opportunities for them, which has been amazing. And I love my parents for that. And so with that pressure, I knew I wanted more, and I knew I had a little bit of a rebel in me. I've always been known I'm like the middle child. And I do that in quotes because then my last sister came, who is my fourth sister, or the fourth in line, my third sister. And then I was no longer sort of that middle child. But grew up being that middle child. I was very rebellious. I loved to challenge status quo. I wanted to think outside the box always. I wanted to challenge individuals. I love pushing buttons. I like to see and how far I could take things sometimes, and took some risks and stuff. And some of that also comes with my ADHD mind, but we'll talk about that some other day. So I knew that I wanted more for myself, but I felt stuck. And I got this download, back to the download, right? Back to the download that said, you need to find ways to stretch yourself and find relationships, not just with, a partner, like a boyfriend, or a husband or whatever, but with actual friends and colleagues that will help you grow. I did. I befriended a person who was a Leo just like me, so we already automatically, Leos love to gravitate towards Leos, automatically had already something in common, and there was an energy and a spark between our friendship. I felt it. We were actually dating brothers, and so we double dated a lot, which was fun. The relationships were very toxic in and of itself, but we'll talk that another day. So her and I really hit it off, and I built a lot of rapport with her. I admired her. Like, she drove a really amazing car. I didn't. She had a really great, stable career. I didn't. She was a single mom and held it down like no one's business. I didn't have any kids, but I admired that of her. I admired her drive, her motivation, her persona, like how she presented was so poised. She was really like cute and sexy and just like exude this feminine energy, but also had that like masculine energy. I admired her, and I saw her as that next level friend, that she was quote unquote better than me in many areas, and I admired that. And so I moved into that zone of, I want to see more friends. I want to be surrounded by people like her that can one up, two up me, right? And then that I can learn from, observe, learn, take the good, take what resonates for me, and create the next level Monica. So that's what I did. And I began to like emulate her in ways, not that like is creepy and copying, not like that, but more so like I wanted to be financially stable like she was, and I wasn't. I wanted to be more responsible and come off more poised. And so she actually extended a great opportunity to me. She actually got me into federal contracting. She offered me a role because of my bilingual skills. She knew I was very responsible in my job. I was always a workhorse. And so I was always very responsible at work, but I wasn't like necessarily financially responsible. I was kind of like overspending, and I had debt and this and that. And so I she saw at least, some good qualities in me enough for her to put her neck out there and risk, promoting a position for me. She talked a lot about benefits and how great benefits were. And basically she could rely on me, and I could be a really good colleague and mentoree, a protege, so to speak, that she could take on. And I interviewed with her boss. We sat for like 10 minutes, talked about his grandchildren. He's like, you know what, you're hired. She wants you on your team. I respect her judgment, and I know she'd bring in stellar hires. And so when do you want to start? And so thankfully I was able to jump in and start. I worked on a really great, cool project with her, basically utilized my bilingual skills, which was really not my best. I wasn't the best Spanish speaking individual, but I definitely did well in that zone. And eventually she moved on to a bigger, better job, which I totally admired of her and congratulated and supported her. But also I moved on to a new position in that same organization where I jumped into proposals. And that's where I started my career in basically a new industry for me. I didn't know anything about writing and developing and graphic designing and outlining and managing teams. I knew nothing about it. I started from absolute scratch. I had one or two mentors here and there, one which I dated, which I don't recommend. But otherwise, like it was a great experience. My first few years with being a proposal coordinator, I didn't know anything about the career. I share it with you because it's like an amazing career that is very lucrative in the DC metro area. High paid salaries without needing a 4-year degree. Some organizations obviously require that, but you can get your foot in the door with some college experience. It's all about kind of the training behind the methodologies of proposals that's more needed in professionals that jump into this industry. So anywho, so I didn't know. I was definitely like a fish out of water. I had no idea what I was doing. Did everything I could to absorb and get trained. Mind you, there was nothing, like over 16 years ago, there was nothing online as far as training the way there is today with proposals. There wasn't anything online. I had to be sent to an actual Shipley Associates training for proposal management and proposal writing. And even that was just like scratching the surface because you really do learn more on the job. Anywho, I found my niche. I was great at it. I was great on my feet. I was great at focusing in it. I was great at the many strengths that I actually bear. I found that I was really good at it and I was passionate and I put the time in. Believe me, folks, I put the work in. I worked like 12 to 14 hour days and I had the stamina for it. I mean, I was in my early 20s, so I did everything because I was so hungry. I wanted to work. I wanted to be proud of what I did, and I wanted my parents to be proud. I wanted something stable for myself, and I got a really great salary boost, a really great bump in salary. And a recruiter who was at that same organization said, "You are making the best move going into this role. Anything under business development pays so well, Monica. They're really, really hard jobs, and they take a lot out of you. Like, you age in these positions, but that's why they pay so well." But anywho, but you really do have to put a lot of work in. And I felt like I was behind the curve because I was not a good writer. Hell, I didn't even like reading, 16 years ago today. I love reading. I love learning. And so it really just changed who I was at the core in a good way. But I was hungry for more. And so I did it, and I eventually jumped into management roles. People saw that I was a good natural leader and that had the good qualities, and mentors, took me on and coached me and helped me through my career. I was able to partner with some good professionals. But I think like overall, the takeaway is that I moved out of my comfort zone of friends, befriended new people in a new environment. And mind you, I knew I was at the bottom of the totem pole. And yeah, there was a little bit of an ego hurt there. But it was what was bigger and what drove me more was knowing that I'm going to learn so much from these people. I'm going to learn some great habits. I'm going to observe them. I remember sitting in meetings and I didn't know terminology and acronyms, in federal contracting, it's all about acronyms, okay? I had no clue. I started from scratch. So I sat in meetings. I'm like, what does that mean? I wrote it down. I wrote it down. I'm like, DARPA, got it, DARPA. Oh, that's an agency, got it. This is this, got it. Oh, incumbent means this, got it. And so, and if I didn't know in that moment, and nobody obviously would, define it, because everyone was talking, as if they assumed that everyone in the room knew these terms, which they should, because they were all, senior professionals. I went back on Google and I looked everything up on that acronym. I looked up what it meant. And I began to write a dictionary in my journal of things that I didn't even pronounce things correctly, like the Corps of Engineers, like Marine Corps of Engineers. I'm like Corp, and someone corrected me. It was embarrassing, but that's how you learn. You put yourself out there, and I began to learn from people. I began to learn and basically shadow some of these professionals, watch them present, looked at what good looked like, and then looked at what not so good looked like. So if there was a professional that wasn't, up to par with the others, I was able to identify that and see what they lacked, and obviously see their potential as well, but see what they lack, so that if I had those gaps, I would help learn to fill those gaps somehow, either on the job, asking questions, training, asking for more opportunities in that area, so that I can be better versed in that area. And so that's what I did. I took those nuggets and I began to build and mold a new professional Monica. And once I reached another level of comfort where I'm like, okay, I'm in a good level, these professionals and I are at the same level, it's time to move it up another step up. And so that's what I did throughout my career. I began to stretch myself and surround myself by people that made better money than me, that drove better cars than me, that were better educated than me, that, had higher positions than me. And they basically took me on like a protege, like a mentoree. That's what they saw. I didn't officially say hey, can you, I shadow you, or, can I do this, that? No, what I did was I did favors on the job. Good favors, though, professional favors, okay? You bad-minded people, not those type of favors. Professional favors. If someone needed something, I knew that my strength was in Microsoft Word. I mastered Microsoft Word like no one's business. And I still do, I know it so well. And I knew that a lot of folks lacked the knowledge. And I would always say, I'd offer it. I'm like, hey, anytime you need any issue, or you have an issue with, headers, footers, you have any issue with Microsoft, let me know, I'll jump in. And I could fix it in less than a few minutes. And I would basically, advertise myself out that way with people. And then the word got around, oh, Monica's great at this, Monica's great at that. And these senior professionals would pull me in. They're like, hey, Monica, can you help me with this, with that, with this, with that? And so I did those favors, and I build the respect and trust with them initially. And once I saw that I gained their respect and their trust, because they kept coming to me, or they would refer me to another colleague and say, oh, XYZ said that you could do this, Monica. I don't know you, but are you okay with helping me? And I would say, absolutely. And so then I would jump in and help. Or do it for them, or write out, a quick how to do step by step if I was busy. But I stretched myself and made sure that I wanted to make myself available. And once I gained the respect and trust of these folks, then I was able to ask them questions, or ask them, hey, do you think I would be good in that role? And kind of test the waters and see what they would think. I would ask them, what their thoughts were of next steps for me. I would ask them for, if they congratulated me verbally, let's say on a project that we worked together and they loved what I did, I asked them to put it in writing. I asked them, hey, do you mind emailing me that? I'd love to share that with my boss. And I began to build, a repository of kudos. I began to build mind thoughts, just bulletins in my own mind of these individuals. Later on, I was able to leverage them for new opportunities. I was able to leverage them for promotions. If they had any availability in their organization, or if they heard of a new opportunity that was coming up, they would talk to me about it because they knew I was growth minded. And that leads me to my second thing, which is the fact that I had a growth mindset. That was the second nugget I want to share with you all, how important it is to have that growth mindset. If it wasn't for my hunger and my ability to activate myself and motivate myself to move forward, and that's all because I carry this weight of a first-gen Latina, first-gen individual, where my parents, put so much on the line and left so much behind, that I feel a responsibility to move that forward and to have that motivation to thank them in a way that their sacrifice was worth it. Having that growth mindset and wanting to be better, wanting to prove that to myself that I can do better. My parents always supported saying that you would be, a great professional in whatever you set your mind to, just be the best at it, right? If you're going to be like the best of this, be the best of that. Thanks to their ability to boost me to say, you can always do more. You are capable of more. My father had always like these very confident, inspiring, filled conversations with us that we are more, that don't let nobody tell you otherwise, that the number one thing that no one can ever take away is your experience and your education. He was coming from a perspective of no man could ever take that from you, and don't ever rely on a man to do that for you, and you always have to be independent and pave your own way without relying on any man. That was his thing, but I took that and I applied it in my career, and I said, no one will do that for me. I have to do it for myself. And I'm hungry for it because I want to do more. And it built this level of confidence that I can do it, but more so that I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to attempt to move forward in it. Even if I don't achieve it, I'm going to learn something from it. And so that's really the growth mindset that I'm talking about. Really just put yourself out there. What's the worst that can happen? A no? What's the worst that can happen? You failed? Well, you're going to learn from it, and you're going to move into, a new phase of your own self because you learned from that, failure. A lot of great growth and success in failures, and learning how to navigate through failures is a great way to learn into your next success. The third nugget that I want to provide out to you all, that relationships are really critical and important. I didn't realize that. I talked about being a hothead years ago. Well, I'm still a little bit of a hothead, but I know how to manage it. I know a lot of people don't like to hear I'm a spicy Latina, but I really am. I have a little bit of spice and fire in me, and I love that. I love that about me. I'm proud of that. I don't care if it's stereotypical, if that's what you think, but I know how to tone it. I know how to move about my fire and my spiciness. I love that about me. And so being able to, foster relationships and learning when you can use that fire and that spice, and being what I like to call that velvet hammer when it's needed. I didn't do that early on, and I remember someone said, oh my gosh, Monica, I would never want to be your husband because you would have them salute you. You're such a general. That was always like a nickname. It was like, you're a commander, you're a general. And yes, I still have that in me. I just have learned to be a strength rather than a weakness. And so I begin to protect my relationships. I begin to protect my reputation. And that's all through maturity, right? That's how we learn. We learn through maturing, through bad experiences, unfortunately, where I didn't have maybe good experience with a few people. And I learned from that. And when I moved on, I'm like, I'm going to do better. I'm not going to react that way. I'm not going to say what I said. So I learned how to manage my relationships better. And today, I always say we're in the people business. And anything that you do, you're in the people business. And what it means is that you're going to always interact with people. And so you need to learn how to communicate. You need to learn what verbal and body language combined can do in a good situation or in a not so good situation. How to talk to individuals in a way that they feel heard, they feel seen, they feel valued, they feel cared for, no matter if you're their leader or not, even if it's your colleague and your counterpart, right? And so being human in your relationships, you never know when you're going to cross that path again with that individual. And keeping that in the back of your mind, that relationships always come around. Those relationships will always come around. Even if you didn't maintain it and you just lost touch, all of a sudden you're back at a new organization and that individual works there. And you're able to connect and say, hey, we left off so well in that other organization 10 years ago. Here we are again. Congratulations. How are you? And now we have an ally. So it happens like that in your career, especially if you're in the same industry. It's very incestuous. And so always know that maintain your relationships, foster them, care for people, even if they don't care for you. It's always good karma anyways. I always say that. Care for people, care for their experiences, care for how you talk to people and treat them. And if you crossed the line, didn't do well, learn how to apologize, learn how to come back and reach out and bring that relationship back in so that you can mend that relationship, put a band-aid if needed. It really shows a lot of respect on your end, and they're going to gain a lot of respect and trust with you again when you do that. So relationships are critical. So those are the three main areas that I always say, like, maintain relationships, make sure that you're always growing and that you're learning, and then expand past your weight class. Always, because that's how you're going to learn and grow and be surrounded by new and fresh individuals that have new perspectives and that maybe have been more successful, and that you can pick up on those nuggets of success from them. All right, so I hope that that was great for you and that you're able to take some of those for you and apply them. I'm always happy to answer any questions. Feel free to reach out at any time. And if you love what you hear, let me know. If there are any topics that you're like, Monica, I really want to hear more about this or that, let's talk more about it. Reach out, let me know. All right. Until then, I sending you a big virtual hug, a lot of positive vibes your way. And I hope you have a blessed week. We will talk next week. Bye.